Good afternoon, everybody. This is James from Twitter, aka Smart Guy, and this is my daughter,
Bella.
Bella. Tell everybody who your favorite football player is.
Tua.
Tua. There you go. All right. Well, listen, everybody. We have a very, very, very special guest today. Okay. Everybody already knows who he is. He needs no introduction. He has many names. Mr. Ian Berger. Okay. Big E. Miami Dolphins fan of the year, Mr. Positivity. You choose, but he is a man who needs no introduction, but I did my best anyway. How are you doing today?
Hey, James, I'm great, man. It's an honor for me to be on the show with you today. I really appreciate you asking me to be here.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you stepping up and coming here, man. I figured, I wanted to ask you some different questions that sometimes the character limits on Twitter, won't necessarily allow, and get to know you a little bit, man. So first of all, it's been a crazy 2 weeks, hasn't it?
It's been a great 2 weeks. Great 2 weeks and a crazy 2 weeks. But yes, no doubt.
Yes. That slide from, free agency, roller coaster, and then immediately into the breaking news of the last couple of definitely.
Well, it definitely makes for
but
a fun
I wanted to sort of Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I wanted to, first start out, and I know it was mentioned on Good Morning Football, and I'm no Peter Schrager, okay, but wanted to get a little more as, speak to some of the volunteer work you do, because I know it was mentioned, you help with, contribute some meal prep for seniors, also volunteer, at least 20 hours a month teaching financial education. I want to see if you could, speak on that a little bit.
Yeah. So first of all, my role with my bank, I'm a senior community development manager, and I cover Central and South Florida, and I also cover Columbus, Georgia. And really what I do, my main role is to partner with banks and nonprofits within the communities that we serve, to make sure that we are being great partners and that we are supporting, again, the communities. And one of the ways that we can do that, there's many ways, but one way is that we can facilitate and teach financial literacy to individuals. And a lot of individuals that I work with are like with organizations with Habitat for Humanity. Also, there's some organizations in Broward like Handy. I facilitate classes from kindergarten up through senior adults. Because if you think about it, when you're going through school, and there's nobody's blame at all, but when you're going through school, you're learning about arithmetic, you're learning about English and science and social studies, but you're not learning how to balance a checkbook or how to create a budget for yourself, or, what a credit card is and what loans are. So what I spend a lot of time doing is facilitating a real nice set of modules to help a lot of the lower to moderate income families that that can utilize that help, even though I think everybody can truly utilize that type of education. But I spend about 20 hours per month with various organizations. I'm very fortunate right now because we are able to do things virtually with the camera, and able to use like Zoom or WebEx or a bunch of other templates and formats. And usually when things get back to normal, I'll be doing a lot more in-person facilitating, which I would much prefer. But so that's kind of what I do there. And then on the other side, feeding seniors, we've actually had a couple of years in South Florida where the Miami Dolphins partnered up with the AARP Foundation, and they would have these million meal pack events where you'd have hundreds, if not thousands of people. It was actually in the arena at Nova Southeastern, and you would help prepare meals that would eventually go to seniors in the Tri-County area in South Florida. The first time we did it, it was actually just my daughter and I knew about it, and I wanted to be involved, and I thought it was a good way to get myself involved, but also a good way to get my youngest daughter involved in something like that. The second year that it happened, I actually went to all of my team members and I said, all right, we need to get some team members from the bank to be part of this, So I ended up getting a group of about 6 or 7 people that went with me the second year. And then the third year, we got about 30 people in the group to come help with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the final total between the 30 people that volunteered were, we had about, I think 7,000 or 8,000 meals that we prepared based on our time that was there. So it was, it's very rewarding, but also it's needed. It's unfortunate that it's needed, but it definitely is needed. So what I'm trying to do is not only help the community, but I'm also trying to teach my family and my kids how important that type of volunteering is. So
Yeah.
that's it. And there's plenty of other things I do too, but those are the main ones.
Well, that's a great point, and I love the fact of trying to show your family. Great point. So brings us to sort of my next point, and sort of multifaceted here. I mean, you are known as Mr. Positivity, okay, and and I guess my question is a simplification, but like, how are you able to maintain that? Like, well, first of all, I don't know if anybody is showing up in your timeline, with non-positive, mentions just because of your, the idea, and everybody knows you're Mr. Positivity. Because I can tell you oftentimes that, all of my comments aren't positive, but you sort of speak to the fact of how you're able to maintain that positivity. I mean, because it seems, with the extent that you are, that it seems to be a really, a strong moral fabric, within your life. So, speak to that a little bit.
I think you hit on it a little bit. It's kind of an inherent trait of mine that has been with me my entire life. One of the recent classes I had last week it's in a town in Immokalee, which is kind of a farm town in South Florida. And I was talking to some middle schoolers, and I shared with them my first ever job. And I told them I wasn't really good in high school because school wasn't really something that I had focused on when I was younger and when I was in school. So what was more important to me was making money, being able to, make money so that I could be independent and purchase things on my own. So working McDonald's became more of a priority for me than some of my school stuff. But what I found was, and some people hear about fast food restaurants and they look at that and they say, well, that's not a good job. And I say, well, you look at a job and you make it however you want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, I loved what I did. I loved working at McDonald's. I was the one who came in that I was always positive. And what that did for me was, when there was an opportunity, they needed someone to work, I raised my hand. But also what I did was I said, I want to learn more. I want to do more, and that gave me the opportunity to be able to do that. And, there are different types of people, and I don't look down on anyone which way they are, but there are some people in the world that they look at something and they just automatically look at the negative, and that's okay. And those people exist. And I think we see some of those on Twitter sometime. Right. But I'm the type of person that I look at something, and 99% of the time I'm going to be looking at it from a positive angle, because I think you get more. And I think the world is better when you have somebody who's just always looking at the good side of things. But again, there are moments when I'm upset about something, and I'll express myself. I'll give you a perfect example. Last year or 2 years ago, right? It was the first year of the rebuild. We had just traded away Laramie Tunsil. Mika Fitzpatrick was also, recently traded. And I was at both of those first two home games where we lost by 50 something points, I think, to Baltimore, and then 40 or 50 something points to the Patriots. That second game, I left and I tweeted out something to, I think, Stephen Ross, and was like, we need to do something now. This is unacceptable, So that happens because I think I'm human, just like everybody else. But I always revert back, and I said, all right, and somebody responded to me. They're like, what are you expecting me to do at this point? I said, I guess we're just going to have to live out this season, but I did change the way I was looking at things, because I wasn't expecting any more wins that year. But I did change it to say this season, this year, which was 3 years ago, is going to be more about the experience with my kids and less about what's happening on the football field, expecting wins or expecting us to go to the playoffs. Yeah. And I'll tell you that when I changed my mindset like that, it made all the difference in the world. And we had, that season was a blast. We had such a fun time. The last game of the season, my daughter and I got to go on the field and hold the flag before the game. And that was an extremely touching and moving moment for me. And that was the first time I'd ever done that as a fan. So anyway, that's in a long way, you could see it's just kind of like, it's just who I am. And it's hard to say it's one thing or another, but it's just, that's how I prefer to live my life,
So, I mean, here's my question is, if it wasn't Big E sitting right here in front of the camera and the microphone, and it was Jill, Jessica, or Danielle, okay, and we asked them, is he really always this positive? What would the general consensus be from the family?
I would say the general consensus would be yes, and it's, I mean, especially when you're talking about the Dolphins, my wife, she has learned that every year is going to be a winning year, because I always say at the beginning of the year, this is going to be our year as a Dolphins, and my oldest daughter, who's now 16, Danielle, she came to me, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, and she said, Dad, why do you follow a football team that never wins? Great question, right? Because if you think about it, at the time she was 13 years old, she had never experienced a winning season for the Miami Dolphins in her 13 years of life. Or I think there was one, she didn't remember it. So I just said, the reason we do this is because I'm loyal, and I'm an extremely loyal person. But also, that's what fans do. Fans stick with their team through the good and the bad. And one day, and I told her, I said, one day the Dolphins are going to be good again, and I'm going to have experienced, all of that bitter before, in order to get to that sweet, which is the playoffs and beyond. So I'm still waiting for that, but I think we're there. I think we're getting closer. I'm excited about it.
I'm going to be honest with you, and this is no slight. It's just, joke. But you were so positive that I look at you as like in my head, in my perception, I just think like it's like the Andy Griffith show. I just want to see, if Danielle comes home late one evening, from curfew, like is it, is the same positivity. I just see like, you got to do better, and because I just see you, in such a positive light that I think it's interesting. You know what I mean?
I think so. I'm gonna give you a little insight. Every parent has those moments, right? Where if you're late, and we've had that conversation already a couple times. It might not be, honey, we need to get better. It might be a little more than that. So I think being a parent, there might be some differences to that, and Danielle would definitely agree with that, and so would Jessica. Things aren't going right, or or they're slacking off at home when they're supposed to be doing some house chores or something else. They might hear it from me, and they'll definitely hear it from my wife too. It's that's a side of me that I don't show on Twitter. I guarantee you that.
Yeah, I just wondered. I'm like, does he have it in him? I just don't know.
Oh yeah, I do.
All right, so I wanted to sort of talk to you about the fan of the year process, because sure. I mean, I would imagine, that in a 12-month span, being selected as the Miami Dolphins fan of the year, being on Good Morning Football, going to the Super Bowl, learning about, the upcoming draft process, that things have it's been a crazy year for you. And I just wanted to say, can you sort of walk us through the, from submission to how you were notified, you know what I mean? And sort of walk us through how this process has been.
Yeah. And at first, and I think my family and I, when we look back on the pandemic, we're going to look at it a couple of different ways. First of all, we are going to be sad about all the people that have succumbed to the disease, and people who have experienced it and have had issues with it. Fortunately for myself, I have not had any family members that have been touched by by COVID, and my wife and daughters obviously have not either. But then also we're going to look at this whole fan of the year thing, because when in 20 years from now, or in 30 years from now, when we're talking about football, or we're talking about this year that just happened, we're going to say, yeah, it stunk. There, people couldn't get out of their houses, but I went to the Super Bowl that year, right? Mm-hmm. I was a fan of the year for my favorite football team that year. So that's going to be something that will be able to stay with us. But to how it came about actually started from Twitter. I was not aware that the NFL had created the Fan of the Year program. It was a brand new program that they started last summer, I want to say. And someone from Twitter actually recommended that I be the Miami Dolphins nominee. And I thought that could be cool. And I shared that, right? And so then some other people just started saying, yeah, I'm going to vote for you. I'm going to vote for you. And they would send me messages. At the time, I wasn't showing my full name on the screen. So they were like, what's your full name? I said, if you put Big E in there, they'll probably get to the right place. But I want to say I got about at least 100 to 150 various people that probably nominated me, which again, I continue to be so humbled about, because I would have never thought that at all. And then I had to also nominate myself. So I kind of put my story down. And sure enough, what happened was, I'll tell you, Travis Wingfield, who is now he's the Miami Dolphins podcaster. He's their main podcaster. He had originally in April, him and I had spoke. We had done a podcast together, and he was just asking me what my thoughts were for the upcoming draft. So that was about a year ago. And I was telling him, it was great. It was nice to be able to be on a podcast with him. He said that there was a follow-up, and I want to say it was August or September of last year. I got a call actually from my season ticket holder representative, and he said, Travis wants to have you back on. He wants to, follow up with you from the last time since the season's going to be starting. That's what it was. And I said, okay, yeah, that would be cool. So I get on. Travis is like, so what do you think about the, he asked like one quick question. And then he said, well, the podcast is not really the reason why we have you on. He said, we wanted to let you know that the Miami Dolphins have selected you as their fan of the year representative this year. And I was blown away. I was like, because a lot of people come to me and they say, you're the number one Miami Dolphins fan. And I kind of have to refute that, because there are so many number one Miami Dolphins fans out there. And, I look at social media, I look at Facebook, I look at Twitter. You have people that have Dolphins tattoos all over their bodies, right? You have people that go to every home game, every away game, every single year. They haven't missed in 30 some odd years. You have people that spend tons of money on memorabilia for Miami Dolphins. I think they're all number one fans, right? So I'm never going to put myself higher than anyone else, because there just are so many great fans within the organization. And then too, at the games, there's like the big Papa Pump. He's pumping everybody up during the game. You've got the deep end crew that they've been there for years. They used to actually cordon off a certain area right behind the goalposts. And you'd have like this crazy, crazy group of fans that are awesome. They're terrific. So, for me to get that, I was just truly amazed and truly humbled. And I thought that was going to be it. What ended up happening was, with the fan of the year process, we got an opportunity. All 32 of us that got selected throughout the country, we had the opportunity to be on Zooms with various peoples. Like, we had a Zoom with Chris Carter, and he was taking questions from us, which I thought was really cool. So it was a live Zoom with us. We also had a live Zoom with Commissioner Goodell, and he was also taking some questions from our group. We had a live Zoom with the VP of officiating, the person who does the instant replay. And he actually allowed us to do some instant replays together and say, what do you think of this play? What do you think of that play? So we had all of these really cool experiences that you would never get otherwise. And then they asked me to put a 2-minute video together, and why you think you should be the NFL, the Miami Dolphins, or the NFL's fan of the year. Cause at that point I was already the Miami Dolphins fan of the year. So I put a 2-minute video together, just saying, these are things that I've done throughout my fandom. These are things that I've done this year. I put together "'Twas the Night Before Tua," which I'm extremely proud of how that video came out. And they, so I come to find out that ended up meaning that I was in the top 8. So I guess the top 8 had to put together their 2-minute video. And then a couple weeks later, I was kind of keeping track of timelines, but they said they wanted to have me right after the season ended in January. They said they wanted to have me come to the stadium so that I could do some sort of marketing video with them. And that was how it was positioned to me. And it was my season ticket rep that invited me to go there. And I remember walking in, there was a young lady there with her laptop. There were 2 industrial sized cameras. My season ticket rep was with me. And then there was a woman at the door. And I was like, all right, this is kind of weird, but they're taking this marketing stuff real seriously. And then I sat down and she asked me one question, like, how did I become a Dolphins fan? Like, all right, and then the next question, I don't remember what it was, but she got a ringing on her computer like a telephone, and it was Solomon Kinley. And that's when he actually told me that I was going to the Super Bowl, and that I was one of the top 3 in the NFL to be able to make it to that. So, I mean, I couldn't keep it together, man. It was, I mean, really, from the first time that I was told to then me being told that I was headed to the Super Bowl, I was extremely emotional, because, I think it's one of those things that as a fan, you can only really dream about, right? Representing the team that you really love. And then also being able to go to the biggest game in the country, biggest game in the world when it comes to football, during a pandemic, right? And that was the other thing too. So anyway, so that happened. That was amazing. Like, it happened too fast, unfortunately. I wish it slowed down, because I wanted it to hurry to get here. I wanted that Super Bowl weekend to happen, and then it happened, and I was like, what just happened for 3 days? And it was truly insane. And then last week, or no, it was last Monday, I want to say, or the Monday before last, I got another text from my my season ticket rep. He said the residuals of you being the fan of the year are going to are continuing. And I said, oh, what does that mean? And so he called me up and he said, yeah, you're actually headed to Cleveland, Ohio to represent the Dolphins during the upcoming NFL draft. And you're also going to be calling out some of the picks from rounds 4 through 7. I was like, this is insane. You know, again, I've never been to a draft before. I've never been to a Super Bowl before. And then be able to call out the numbers for the team too. I just hope one of the guys that I call out, you know, is a Pro Bowl player, is a Hall of Fame player, you know, and they can remember that weird, tall looking dude that was on the stage that called out their name at the draft. That's what I'm hoping for. But that's kind of it. I mean, that's been the trip. You know, and there's so many things in there and so many emotions in there. But I've just been so proud to be part of this process, and it's going to stick with me no matter what. Like, no matter what happens, the rest of the stuff. So, calling out picks may be more exciting than Super Bowl. Hey, you know what? That might not be wrong, because I was rooting for the Chiefs. So, you know, but at the end, when the Tampa Bay Bucks won, I was applauding, because, you know, it's, again, best team in the country for the year, you know, and you had to give them some of that respect.
So what I just heard is when it's time for the Dolphins to make their pick at 4, to just send you all our tweets. Okay. And then you can choose from those players that
I said I was going to do a Twitter poll.
Select. Yes.
I'm going to do a Twitter poll, and that's it. And that's how it's going to work.
Okay. Well, question, as far as, I mean, obviously not when you're on the stage, but when you're around the atmosphere, are we going to see any, you know, Big E going live, anything, you know, around the draft?
I hope so. So first night of the draft is Thursday night. I will not be in Cleveland for the first night, and I'm hoping that they do something in Miami at the stadium. We'll see. You know, obviously they're going to take all the precautions that they need to. I will be there Friday night because we fly in, I want to say, about 4:00 in Cleveland, and the place that we're staying is very close to where the draft is happening. So I want to, you know, I'm going to see if my daughter and I can watch the second night of the draft, which is rounds 2 and 3. And then on Saturday at noon is when round 4 starts, and all of the fans of the year will be recognized on the stage at the beginning of the 4th round. So I think definitely I should be on TV, and I'm going to be probably the biggest guy standing there with the rest of that group. So I'll probably stand out. And then, of course, too, when the time comes to call out the picks, I'll be on there on the podium making the picks.
It sounds awesome, and I look forward to it. So, you know, just a couple of things before we start to get out of here is I wanted to get your, you know, expectations on the 2021 NFL season.
Oh, so, well, you have to, in order to make the expectations for 2021, you have to look where we were 2 years ago, right? We went 5-11. The first year that Coach Flores was here, and the first year that they really had their draft that they wanted. And that was highly unexpected for a 5-win team, because I know that there were a lot of people that said that the Dolphins weren't going to win any games, right? That was the tank for Tua season.
Right.
And then last year, for us to go 10-6 was, I think, a huge surprise to a lot of people. What's funny is I actually called 10-6 at the beginning of the year when we were kind of doing our picks through Dolphins Talk, which is the site that I write for and podcast for. And I said 10-6. And again, I'm optimistic. So for me, 10-6 being optimistic, you know, most people would probably say, well, it's more like 8-8, which we had a couple of guys from the site that said 8-8. So this year, I do expect a 12-win season. I do expect that we take that next step, right? Because I think anything less than 10 wins, you know, or less than 11 wins could be seen as, all right, well, we're the 3rd year into this rebuild. This is when we're really supposed to start seeing the fruits of our labor. But I also think that we have the talent to be able to do that, right? When you look at Tua, which, you know, I know that there's a lot of people, it's a very mixed group as far as what they expect from him. But I think what everybody can agree on is that we're going to see an improved Tua from last year. You know, because last year he had some challenges with throwing the ball down the field at certain points. Some people said that was because of Chan Gailey. Some people said that it was because, you know, he was just hesitating. But also we have to realize, and some people don't like us talking about this, but you have to realize that he underwent a major surgery that most, you don't usually get those types of situations, except for when you're in a major car crash, and he experienced that on a football field. So now he's got the off season. He's going to have training camp. He's going to have preseason. So, and he's going to have some additional weapons, right? We know that they're going to get a wide receiver, or some nice weapons out there. And we know they're probably going to get a running back, one of those young guys. So the team is going to be built up even more for him to be able to succeed. So, and our defense was strong last year. It looked like our defensive schemes worked. And I know, Van Ginkel is going to be back, and we've got a lot of really positive young players that are going to be back as well. So I expect more from this team in 2021. I really do.
Okay. All right. Just a couple of rapid fire questions here for you. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. This doesn't have to be Dolphins related. It has nothing to do with, what pick. Just, can you tell me, do you have a favorite player in the draft? Doesn't matter position or if the Dolphins can or can't, draft him, but do you have a favorite, guy in this draft that you like?
I wouldn't say there's one specific that's my favorite out of all of them. For me, I think it's more about filling the holes in our that we have right now, which are not as many holes as we have had in the past, right? So I look at, we're going to have number 6 pick, and we're going to have the opportunity to probably take any one of the top 3 wide receivers, Chase, Smith, and Waddle, and we will probably have the opportunity to take Pitts as well. Any one of those, I'd be happy with. I'd be ecstatic with any one of those 4. When we come down to the 18 pick, I know a lot of people are looking at Najee as the guy. I wouldn't be upset at all if they took Najee. I'd be very happy because I think he's a game changer himself, just his size and the way that he moves. But with Greer and with Coach Flores, they haven't valued running backs that high with their pass, with their trends. With, Flores in New England, they never took somebody very high or a running back very high. They recently did with Sony Michel, but I think he was a number 32 pick of that year. And I could be wrong, but I know he was a late first round draft pick. So it wouldn't surprise me if they went edge rusher, because Coach Flores is a defensive coach, right? And that's where he comes from, the defensive side of the ball. And that's one of our holes, is on defense. And then after that, second round, probably running back, probably linebacker, also a safety. I think we have some spots at the safety, but cornerbacks, I think we're good. I think I'm hoping Igbinoghene takes that next step that allows him to fill in when necessary, so that he will be the future in that role. But I think it's kind of too soon to tell. Last year, he was thrown to the wolves at the beginning of the season. And he definitely had some challenging moments there, I guess you could say, just being real nice about it. So, but I am not a big college guy, James, to be honest with you. And a lot of people on Twitter who follow me know that. So, I'm looking for, let's find the right players to fill the positions of need that we have. But I've been looking at all these guys, and I've been looking at their tapes, and, I think Greer and Flores will make the right choices.
Yeah, it's funny you said that about college. You have been a long time Miami Dolphins fan, and I have been very upfront with people. You know what I mean? As far as my fandom, I am a college guy through and through.
Because you got the A behind you, right?
Yeah,
big old Alabama right behind you.
Yeah, because I've primarily lived in Alabama all my life. I lived in a couple other places for the military, but primarily Alabama through and through. There's no pro team here. When you're born, it's, you either like Auburn or you like Alabama. It's those are fighting words.
Yeah.
So, and so football is just extremely serious in the South, but it's primarily all college. And I've told people there's no hiding on this, and I've always just, with the NFL, I've watched it, but just never had that, one team like, oh, this is the team. And then I'll tell you, Tua being at Alabama, and I've been an Alabama fan for a long time, but Tua is just a transcendent player. That just, it was like, okay, well, I'll wherever Tua goes, I'll start being a fan, even if Tua leaves, you know what I mean? But at least it transcends from, college to NFL. And I will tell you that, since I've made that, not necessarily a change, but started having more interest with one specific team in the NFL, it makes it a lot more interesting, and you have a lot more, information to digest, and it makes it, definitely interesting as the season goes on. But yeah, I absolutely love, college football. To me, that's always been my first, love. But the NFL is coming up fast, on that love, for college. It's extremely, interesting.
I'll tell you, and to that point, James, I have never, and as long as I've been a fan, and also I started social media about 10 years ago, so it's probably within the last 10 years, I've never seen a college fan base go follow a national football team like we have seen from the Crimson Tide to the Dolphins, because of one player.
Mm-hmm.
Tua had such an amazing effect on people in Alabama, students of the school, and also, of course, his following in Hawaii as well, because that was where he grew up. But it's been amazing to see the transition. I've probably met a couple hundred people that are now Dolphins fans, similar to you. That transition, that are not just Alabama fans, but now they're Alabama and Miami Dolphins fans. So, and I'll tell you, I think there's still a little uneasiness with some people, and part of that is because of Nick Saban, right? Because as you recall, I'm sure you would recall, in the history books of the Miami Dolphins, he kind of left us at the altar there for a little while, but he has gone on to be probably the best head coach in college football, and you got to give him that type of credit, even though some people are still not going to like him because of what he did for the Dolphins, but it is what it is.
It's funny you mentioned Tua, bringing the fan base, but to be honest with you, I don't think, and we're not talking about the NFL now, but just the college, Tua did that in college. Before Tua became quarterback at Alabama, Nick Saban was 3 yards in a cloud of dust. We are not going to beat ourselves. We are not going to throw the ball around. We are not going to run no huddle. We are going to run it down your throat and make you like it.
Sure.
And then Tua gets there, and it just, everything changes. You know what I mean? Now we're running, no huddle. We're running the RPO. We're running, all these things. So, I don't think people realize just how much Tua changed Nick Saban and himself. And then, like what you touched on, there are so many storylines there. Nick Saban was, if doctors had been a little different, you're looking at a Nick Saban and Drew Brees. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. That's right.
Nick
Thank you
Saban,
for reminding me. Yeah.
Nick Saban had the exact same record after 2 years as Flores.
Wow.
When it comes to wins and losses.
It's true.
So there's just so many storylines there that, parallel between Alabama and the Dolphins. And to be honest with you, there's a great chance after this draft, there's only going to be more of those storylines, with multiple players being there. But listen, man, I appreciate everything that you do. Okay. As far as the positivity, your volunteer work, I think it spreads like wildfire. I will tell you, oftentimes, I catch myself, I really wished I would have responded in a way that Big E would have responded, on Twitter. But I am trying. But no, I appreciate your positivity. You do amazing things for fans, and I hope you continue to do that. And look forward to everybody. Need to tune in to the draft on, you said, Saturday at what time?
12 o'clock, 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. Yes, sir.
To see you on the big screen, and then wink, wink, jab, jab. We need to see some behind the scenes, videos from you, and put that out.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate you coming on, man. I hope you have a blessed rest of your weekend, and I hope that you're not dreading Monday as much as I am.
I'm not dreading it at all, man. Love what's going on. So awesome, man. I appreciate you having me on, James. This has been great. I love being able to tell my story, and I appreciate you also telling me that, let me know that I inspire some people, because that really means the world to me, to know that just the words that I say and the actions that I show, that it makes a difference for other people. It really does.
Well, I appreciate it, brother. And until next time, man, fins up.
Fins up, James. Thank you, sir.
Thanks.